So I'm going to start with talking about the state of the school, and then talk about our strategic plan that is the basis of our capital campaign over the next 5 to 7 years. The state of the school is strong, and I hope that I can prove that with some of the data that I'm going to show you today. So what are some of the numbers? And these are numbers that deans care about, but I think they reflect the strength of our school. This is data from 2016 related to our research accomplishments. We are number 2 in research dollars per principal investigator in the country. So it means that the quality of our science that is competitive against the other top scientists is as good as any place in the United States. We are number 3 in research dollars per square foot. And I'll talk about this later on. It means we need more space, and that's part of our strategic plan. Research quality. This is a metric that just came out in the last several weeks from the journal Nature. Nature is probably the top scientific journal in the world, and they came out with a new ranking system of all research institutions in the world. And they call it the Nature Innovation Index. And what it reflects is the publications that come out of a institution that lead to new patents and ultimately to new drugs and devices. So it really captures the innovation in a given institution. And we didn't know anything about this ranking system, and all of a sudden it came out. And we're pleased because we rank number 10 in the world among all institutions in the Nature Innovation Index. So it means not only are our scientists very competitive for getting NIH grants as reflected in what I just showed you before, but that science is leading to new products, new drugs that change the course of medical disease. And that's what Mount Sinai is all about. We're not just about getting grants and publishing in top journals. We're about changing the lives of our patients. Our faculty has grown dramatically over the last several years because of the acquisition of the former Continuum system. We have gone from around 2,000 faculty to over 3,400. And that integration has worked very well, in large part because we welcomed the new faculty. All of our chairs have done a spectacular job in welcoming the new faculty that now are fully integrated into the Mount Sinai health system. We've had a number of new appointments this past year that are very important. Stephen Burikoff has been named Dean for Cancer Innovation after doing a spectacular job in leading the Tisch Cancer Institute. Stephen's here someplace. Steve, if you can stand up. You've done just a spectacular job in leading the Tisch Cancer Institute. However, this is not a retirement position. This is a very important leadership position to lead us in the future in further advancing our cancer research to make a difference for our patients. Mike Lightman, who's has been named Dean for Graduate Medical Education. Eric Schatt has been named Dean for Precision Medicine. We've recruited 2 new system chairs, Eric Barton for Emergency Medicine, and Sean Morrison, who's getting an endowed chair today in geriatrics. And as part of our strategic plan, we've established a number of new research institutes, and you can see there some of those institutes and the new directors that have been named. Because of the growth in the medical school, we're now one of the largest medical schools in the country in terms of number of faculty, number of research grants. I have named a number of new senior associate deans to this has essentially been promotions to important new positions throughout the school. How are we doing in recruiting medical students? Our medical students are among the best in the world. Most of us who are faculty say we couldn't get into Mount Sinai right now because of the quality of our students and the competitiveness of getting into our school. So this is the matriculating class that arrived in 2017. You can see that their median GPA is 3.83. They come from the top schools in the country, and on top of that, they are passionate about becoming leaders, whether it's in research, advocacy, clinical physicians, et cetera. They're the best. And I want to mention what a great job our medical education department has done. This is the entering class of the MD PhD students. Also terrific, going to become great scientists. The average GPA is 3.9. Those of you who haven't been in school for a while, the best you can get is 4.0. In the past year, our Department of Medical Education has done many notable things. I'm not going to read all these slides. They're going to be on our website in a few days. So for those of you who want to focus on the details, they'll be there. I want to note that the FlexMed program, where we enter about 1/3 of our students after an early acceptance, has worked out very well. These students, all our students are spectacular. These students bring in students that can focus on a variety of different areas and not be bound by the traditional pre-med requirements. So these students can be humanities students majoring in music, or computer scientists, or physicists, et cetera, but they all share a passion to become physicians and physician scientists. We've fully integrated a new curriculum. We've expanded our faculty advisory group. We're now preparing for the next LCME reaccreditation process. No worries there, though. We have focused in the past year and will be implementing a new program that we call Icahn Be Well. You may be aware that there's a lot more information coming out about the stress and burnout among health professions in general. That includes the full spectrum of those involved in delivering health care. It includes medical students, house staff, faculty. And so we'll be paying over the next several years, particularly attending to wellness, providing resources for our students, for our house staff, to help them achieve a balance in their life so that they achieve the best in their profession, but they're also achieving the best in their personal life. And the school will be making substantial investments in that area. As I mentioned, we promoted Mike Leitman to be a full dean. Where's Mike? Mike, if you could stand up. Mike has done a fantastic job. And on top of that, he's leading the largest GME program in the United States. So this is recent data that lists the number of residents associated with different health systems. And you can see there, we're number one in terms of the number of residents. We are now responsible for training 2,193 residents. That's Mike's responsibility. He's done great. And you can see number two is New York Presbyterian, but there are 400 residents behind us. So we have great responsibility to train the next generation of leaders in medicine. Our residency programs are doing well. We have many ranked in the top 25. This ranking system, in my opinion, is flawed. It's based on rankings using U.S. News and World criteria, which I think are very much flawed. They're also using doximity to get the rankings, but we have to play that game. So I think these rankings underrepresent the quality of our training programs, and we're working very hard to get the word out through doximity, which now has about 75% of all physicians are on doximity. It's like a Facebook site for physicians, and so we need to take advantage of that in how we get the word about the quality of our training programs, and that includes the goals listed here for next year. Our PhD program has done spectacularly well. We This is the class that we've admitted for the coming year. It has the highest metrics of any class we have admitted. And on top of that, the students come from top schools, have already published top papers already. So we're very excited about this group coming in, and they come from many different undergraduate schools. We are growing our master's programs. Many of the master's programs are a terminal degree, and others are a gateway to other degrees like PhD degrees and MD degrees. And so this is a very important initiative for the school. It's become more important over the last several years, and the quality of these programs has been improving. The graduate school has worked very hard in expanding its reach, and it includes establishing exchange programs, affiliations with other schools to provide our students courses that may not be easily available on our own campus. And that includes collaborations, affiliations with CUNY, which has a very strong engineering school, enhancing our biostatistical training programs, creating new training tracks like translational oncology, and so on and so forth. This details some of the expanded affiliations that we've made in the past year. A graduate student exchange program with CUNY, closely affiliating with the Grove School of Engineering at CUNY. Our affiliation with Rensselaer Polytech has matured. We now have over $14 million in joint funding. And we've established an affiliation over the last year or so with Stony Brook, where they have very strong programs in computer science and engineering and physics. And we, frankly, are much stronger in the biomedical scientists. So it's a very good collaboration so far, and we expect it to expand over the next several years. And we are about to establish a new affiliation. Ben, I think I saw you come in. Ben Tenover, if you can stand up. Ben is about to establish a new affiliation with Institut Pasteur, which is one of the top institutions as it relates to research in virology, as we are, and so we think this is going to be a very strong partnership over the next several years. We've done some renovation over the past year. New classrooms. We converted the room formerly known as the boardroom on the 5th floor in Annenberg to what we have now named as Center for Innovation and Discovery. A very flexible space, allows our students to write on the white walls and to think great thoughts. And so we're very pleased with that, and we've added to the classroom space. We've enhanced the Patricia and Robert Levinson Student Center. It's actually remarkable what our architects and facilities folks have done. It just recently completed, so it's part of the Icahn Be Well program to enhance the kind of recreational space that we need for our students. We're placing a lot more attention in connecting with our alumni. We have about 30,000 alumni now across the medical school, the training programs, the hospital training programs, and so forth. Given that our school started in the late 1960s, essentially we have as many living alumni as any other medical school and graduate school. So this year we are reaching out to all of our alumni to inform them of all the great things that are happening, and maybe in a year or two we'll ask them to help support the capital campaign. Mentoring is very important at the school, and under the leadership of Elizabeth Howell and Lakshmi Devi, Dean and Associate Dean, to reach out to our junior faculty to make sure we're providing the kind of mentoring that they need to be successful going forward. Diversity, a very important priority for our school and our medical school. I'm not going to go over all the things that we're doing, but I think it's reflected that the Mount Sinai health system, including the school, was ranked #1 in the United States by Diversity Inc. in 2017. So we're never going to be satisfied, but it's a high priority for us to support diversity in all its aspects. So here's some more numbers. This is the numbers that illustrate where we are in our research. Expenditures per principal investigator. This is anonymized data, but we're number 271 over there on the left, where we're ranked #2 in the United States. #3 in research dollars per square foot. And in terms of the growth of our sponsored programs, research programs from all sources, we are #4 in the United States. So you can see we are among the very top medical schools in the country when it comes to our research. As I mentioned before, it's not just about getting the research dollars and publishing in top journals. It's about converting that science to products, new drugs, new devices. And so we have invested very heavily in our tech transfer office, which we call Mount Sinai Innovation Partners. And this is the data over the last several years, and you can see that new patents filed and a variety of other metrics of where our science is headed are illustrative that our science is headed toward commercialization, and our tech transfer office, Mount Sinai Innovation Partners, is providing the infrastructure for that to happen. We've done a couple of things to facilitate, and the one I want to highlight most is that the school has begun to fund an accelerator, beginning with a $10 million investment over the next several years, and that is to identify Mount Sinai science that needs further financial investment so that the science is ready for commercialization with an industry partner. The number of startups has increased dramatically, and as well as alliance with other companies. Perhaps the most dramatic example of that is the formation of a Mount Sinai-owned company, not a startup, a very mature company called Semaphore, which we launched on June 1st, 2017, whose mission is none other than to revolutionize clinical diagnostics and create a big data information system that will enable us to identify ways to prevent and better treat human disease. So already we have approximately 350 employees. Some have joint faculty appointments, others are fully with the company. We're very excited that this company will soon become a leader in its field in genomic testing and big information science. Eric Schatt, who's been our chair of genetics and is now Dean for Precision Medicine, is Semaphore's CEO. The faculty practice, under the leadership of Bert Dreyer, has continued to grow. The operating margin is strong, as is the contribution margin. We have worked very hard to improve our infrastructure to serve our doctors in terms of our billing office, our access facilities, and so forth. You might notice here that the growth is different between 16 and 17. That's because the genomic sequencing work, which is Semaphore and was over $100 million, moved into the new company. So apples to apples, the faculty practice is continuing to grow. Didn't want Bert to be misled by that. Here's an amazing number in terms of our access center. This is to provide an infrastructure so that our patients can call, get an appointment, essentially, right away, or have their questions answered right away. The Access Center now takes 250,000 calls a month, like 3 million calls a year. Several years ago, what was it, Bert? I mean, it was hardly anything. So we've gone from a standing start to 3 million calls a year, and it's through the very hard work of Bert Dreyer and his team. Maybe, Bert, you can stand up and be acknowledged, because he's done a fantastic job as the CEO of the faculty practice. And here are numbers that show, the growth over the last several years in terms of ambulatory encounters, outpatient visits, and what our ongoing initiatives are. Over the coming year, we're going to focus very heavily on growing our faculty practice throughout the health system, including Mount Sinai St. Luke's, and I know Art Gianelli is here, the president, who's done a great job. We're going to be renovating a space at Mount Sinai St. Luke's to grow the faculty practice, and here are some of the things that we are doing and will be doing over the next year. Renovating an ambulatory pavilion, which will be as nice as anything we have throughout the system, having new imaging center, and so on and so forth. So Mount Sinai St. Luke's is going to be a totally new place. It's only a mile from this campus, so it's one Mount Sinai, and that will be reflected in all the work that we do at Mount Sinai St. Luke's. And here is what it's going to look like over the next year as we continue the renovation. You can see that the ambulatory space is going to be beautiful, with new cardiovascular institute, new infusion space. It's going to be terrific. Same at Mount Sinai West under the leadership of Evan Fladow, opening up new practices, building cardiology, orthopedics, neurosurgery, and so on and so forth. These are not renderings, so this is what the space looks like now. You can see all the progress we're making at Mount Sinai West and Mount Sinai downtown, Union Square. Again, the concept is one Mount Sinai throughout Manhattan and now into the other boroughs. Same quality of care wherever you see a Mount Sinai doctor. And these are some of the 2018 projects that will be happening at Mount Sinai West as it relates to Mount Sinai doctors. And further rendering of Mount Sinai downtown, which includes Mount Sinai Chelsea, where we have established and growing a women's health center. And also we are opening up on the bottom left here, within a few days, a Union Square urgent care center. Financially, we're strong, but we've got to stay vigilant. Medical schools don't make money. It's always the goal is to break even and continue to enhance through that process and growing the research, renovating space, recruiting faculty. And Steve Harvey has done a spectacular job as the CFO. In most places when the CFO knocks on your door, it's not a happy occasion. But Steve has a way of giving the news, encouraging, giving advice on how to move things forward in a way that it's best than I've ever seen in terms of a CFO. So we've outlined the challenges to continue to be robust financially. You could have a lot of great ideas, but if you don't have the money to carry them out, it's not going to work. And so we have a lot of challenges, and we're going to meet them to continue to be financially strong. I'm not going to go through this list. Our chairs know about it, and it'll be available on the website. Part of the action plan is to commercialize Mount Sinai Science. So Semaphore is an example. It's already a pretty big company. We own it. So as that company is successful and grows in value, that's good for the financial health of the school. Okay, so let me get to the strategic plan. And this was a very exciting process that went from November 2015 to 2016 in the first phase. And we are now in phase 2, which is raising money and at the same time implementing the plan. And I want to acknowledge Eric Nestler. Maybe, Eric, you can stand up, our Dean for Academic and Scientific Affairs, who played a major role in leading and developing this plan. And it involved 37, it was a massive undertaking. It involved 37 work groups, over 200 in our faculty, so we were getting advice from many different faculty. And at the same, literally almost at the same time, once we got plans from our work groups, we brought in 37 external advisory groups of world experts to say, look at this plan. Is this a forward-looking plan? Is this going to break new ground? Is this going to have us at the very cutting edge of biomedical science? So we got very good advice from the best people. And then we collated the plans, the advice, and had a strategic plan council, and then ultimately the leadership had to make some decisions. So the characteristics of a good plan is, one, is you don't make everybody happy, and two, you anticipate what's not so obvious of where science and medical care is going. If it's obvious, you're going to have a plan like everybody else's. But if it's a great plan, you're anticipating the science and investing in that science, so we really make a difference. And I think we have a plan that is going to do that. These are the guiding principles of our plan: to take advantage of the size and excellence of the Mount Sinai health system, which is now one of the largest health systems in the nation; to establish unrivaled excellence in medical and graduate education. If you don't have great students, it's hard to recruit great faculty. And once your students graduate and they're the best, you want to keep them. And so that's why it's very important to provide the best education and recruit the best students. And as I mentioned, to anticipate and fund new areas of research that will result in discovery of novel approaches to the diagnosis and treatment of the most serious diseases that we face. To invest further in current areas of excellence, and be to power an engine of discovery to create more intellectual property, more collaborations with industry, and more Mount Sinai companies. So that is the principles that guided the development of this plan. So this is what we're going to do. In terms of taking advantage of the health system, we have or will be establishing several new research institutes: an addiction institute at Mount Sinai, to be led by Yasmin Hurd, one of the leading addiction scientists in the world. I think it's all clear to us why that's now become even more important with the opiate crisis. Adolescent Health Research Institute that builds on the incredible leadership of Angela Diaz. An Exposome Institute that is taking advantage of the new science led by Bob Wright and his team on the role of the environment in human disease, particularly with children, to enhance transformative clinical trials under the leadership of Anna Alliance, and to fund and build a Women's Health Research Institute under the leadership of Liz Howell. We're going to expand the scope of research in the areas listed on the slide. We're going to invest in surgical and rehabilitation innovation. And we created a new academic department of health system design and global health under the leadership of Pramjot Singh. And very important, very exciting, we've established an Institute for Next Generation Healthcare under the leadership of Joel Dudley, who's getting an endowed chair today. So this is an example of to come up with ideas that aren't so obvious. So if you're going to have an Institute for Next Generation Healthcare, how do you know what the next generation is? And that's Joel's job, to figure that out. As I mentioned, we're going to invest very much in medical education, particularly in the Institute for Medical Education and the Center for Learning and Development. We really need to enhance scholarships for our students. The debt that our students are faced with upon graduation is really too much. And we need to enhance the space where we teach. That's medical education. Similarly, in graduate education, we've undertaken a curriculum reform. We're making major investments in precision medicine. And that's an approach to utilize genomics, phenotype, meaning the symptoms associated with human disease, to help predict, prevent, and treat human disease. using advances in biomedical science. We're going to make a major investment in precision medicine. And we're poised to do that because of the size of our health system and the electronic medical record, which Kumar Chaitanya is taking a lead in establishing throughout our health system. It will transform healthcare delivery, and we got to be at the cutting edge of doing that. And this is what precision medicine does. It takes genetic vulnerabilities that we measure, medical history, laboratory tests, environmental science, which I've already mentioned, life history, use big data analytics, which means we've had to invest in computer science and high-performance computing capability, and ultimately, and that's the goal, to tailor treatments and cures for our patients and prevent disease. So we're going to invest hundreds of millions of dollars in precision medicine. And precision medicine touches almost every part of the human condition in terms of disease. Cancer, heart disease, diabetes, infectious disease, brain disorders, childhood illness, and others. This is just an example. It's at the core of making progress. And related to that is we're going to make a major investment in immunology. The immunologists tell me that every disease is related to your immune system, and I've almost become convinced. I have become convinced that we have to make major investments there, and Miriam Murad is the new leader of our Immunology Institute, and we're very confident in her leadership. We're going to further invest in our infrastructure to make drug discovery more easily done, whether it's related to neurotherapeutics, immunotherapeutics, using the latest techniques like gene editing, which I'm sure many of you have heard about in terms of editing a gene in the human embryo related to a congenital cardiovascular disease. We want to be on the cutting edge, that if unfortunately there's an embryo or even a child with a disease, a single gene disease, where you could edit out that gene which will cause death, that can change the lives of so many people, and we need to be at the cutting edge of developing those techniques. I mentioned the Accelerator Program to invest in science that need more money, and we're going to further invest in other areas of excellence that is listed on this slide. So this will cost some money, and we have to recruit new faculty. And the size of this plan is about the same size of the plan we developed back in 2006 and 2007, 10 years ago. And it turned out to be very successful. So we need to recruit discovery science investigators, translational scientists, physician scientists, and computational scientists. And as I mentioned before, to do this, we need more space because we're number 3 in the country in research dollars per square foot. We're running out of space, so we do need a new research building, and that is part of the strategic plan going forward. We're actively beginning to think through what needs to be in that new research building. And we do know where it could go because we own space just north of the most recently built research building, the Hess Center for Science and Medicine. So most importantly, the goal of this plan, we're going to be successful, and this is what we're going to hold ourselves to, is that we make discoveries that make Mount Sinai Health System the nation's best and improve the lives of our patients both locally and around the world. Just want to remind folks that we've initiated a very successful annual conference called Sinai Innovations, where people come from around New York and some from around the world. This year's focus is cancer, to talk about how do we make progress in cancer both at Mount Sinai and around the country. So here's our motto. It's for you for life. Thank you very much.